There's a new manager in New York, Aaron Boone, and John Martin. I know you know Aaron pretty well. He's kind of been hired by the Yankees because of his great communication skills. What did you see in him to bring him to ESPN?
And actually, the gentleman that first alerted me was Dan Shulman, who said, you have to get in touch with Aaron Boone. I am telling, this was Danny's, almost a quote verbatim, I am telling you he is going to be a star doing this once he finishes playing. So, I did reach out to Aaron, and, we did talk, and he did a Dodgers-Cardinals division series. And some guys will get better gradually, by the game or by maybe mid-season. They're kind of getting the hang of it, and Aaron was one of those guys that improved every half inning. I mean, seriously, he was. You just point something out to him that you thought might be a help, and he immediately picked up on that and started to integrate that into his presentation. And by the time we finished the series, and I can remember we were out to dinner in St. Louis, and he said, "So what did you think?" I said, "You're going to be really good at this," because I said from where you started at this series to where you are now, I said there are a lot of people who are doing this who aren't as polished as you already are. And the big, the negative that I heard back in Bristol from the TV side was Aaron's sound. He doesn't have that classic voice, and I said, are you listening to what he's saying? Because even then, I mean, his insight was so spot on. And he ended up getting some voice coaching, and it's funny, I think, even the last time, I was not at the World Series this past October, but all the ones prior that he did on radio with Dan, he'd have these voice exercises, and he'd be doing them pregame.
Like a singer, kind of.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, so along those lines. I am not gonna grace you with my impersonation of them, but he did all these, and I think it's also kind of a testament to the fact that once he's committed to doing something, he's in all the way and very coachable. So when he got the job, I was ecstatic, because I'm not telling you they're going to win a World Series right out of the gate or even next year, but I think he's going to be extraordinarily good at this.
Well, if we're evaluating sound alone, then Howard Cosell would have never made it.
Howard Cosell, live from the Bronx.
Yeah, correct.
An epic battle.
But no, I mean, I've watched plenty of games that Aaron's been part of the broadcast, and I think that he's a brilliant baseball mind. Why the Yankees like him, and I think why he's going to do well in New York, is because they were looking for somebody who not only was going to agree a little bit more, I think, with ownership, but somebody who could be more relatable to the players. And I think that Aaron has that personality. I've never met him before, but he seems like somebody who's more likely to sit down with a player, hash out concerns, and come up with a way, where they can move towards a solution, opposed to Joe Girardi, who at times, again, I don't know him personally, could seem a little bit like a drill sergeant and maybe a little unapproachable to the players. But I think Aaron's brilliant baseball mind, coupled with sort of that attitude, I don't think the Yankees are going to have a problem with him at all.
Do you find it interesting, John, that Girardi, who really didn't like dealing with the media, all of a sudden goes and is hired by the Major League Baseball Network and starts working in the media? Don't you find that a little ironic? It's done all the time, I know, but it's just like
Van Gundy. Who thought Jeff Van Gundy was going to be a lead analyst? And when he was hired, I can remember people saying, Jeff? Now, I have to say that I had seen Jeff in those moments when we would do Knick games, and he'd sit down to talk to Dr. Jack Ramsey on the off days, and there I saw a guy who was hysterical and very candid, to the point of sometimes I'd say, do you really want, can we use that? Yeah, sure. And he'd say, okay, we can quote you. Yeah, sure. Okay. So but to think that Jeff could translate that to TV, and he has. I think Joe will do fine. Again, it's one thing.
Well, what about this? He has like this. He's tense. He seems like he said, a drill sergeant. He's very tense.
Well, look, it's one thing when you're tense, when you're down there and the decisions are on you.
He loosens up in the booth. We've seen him in the booth before, and he's a different person.
He did a series for me, Cubs and Braves, way back oh God, I forget. I want to say late 90s, and he did it with the late Jim Durham, who Joe really idolized growing up in Chicago, and Jim was the voice of the Chicago Bulls, so that was a real treat for Joe. And Joe was raw, but he was pretty good. I mean, you cannot dispute about his knowledge of the game.
Right.
And I've always used to say that thing. He's just, to me, a classic Type A personality. He's very focused. He's very driven. It's what he is. When you would see him in spring training, pretty relaxed, and opening day, like if you saw him in spring training, hey, good to see you. How's everything? Saw him opening day. Joe, how are you? Good. Got to run.
He was focused on other stuff. He was focused on team stuff.
But I'd say as the season wore on, he started to wrap himself a little tighter and tighter. That's the way the man is. I can't fault the guy for that. They got to the seventh game of the ALCS. They were one game from the World Series with him at the helm. Cashman ownership just looked and thought, okay, given the youth on this club, that they needed a different approach.
Right.
And Aaron is, again, in terms of that, I think he's going to be great. I think he's, if there's a guy who's unflappable, that's Boone. That's Boone. That's somebody who can roll with the punches, and that's, I think, somebody who can be firm with somebody and tell them, you're really stinking up the joint.
Sure.
Without backing. Some people have that talent where they can tell people you're really not doing the job, and they don't feel like they're backed against the wall.
Right.